Week 32. This is what's up, dude. Stop opposing God who is with me, or he will destroy you. Dun, dun, dun. It's a pretty powerful way to start the week. It's what pops out while you're reading what you read. So every man is a king of his own castle or kingdom. Could be a tent, could be a house. You're the king. Those who put God first will have the favor of the Lord. So from what I'm reading, we were better off with prophets than what we were with kings. Okay? So this week we enter into the book of Ezra. And maybe it's just the clutter in my brain right now, but it's really hard to find the message in it. There's a lot of census, which I don't know what the message is in the census. That kind of eludes me. The Israelites are mentioned as exiles at one point. I know I have, but have you ever felt like you're exiled from something? I've had that feeling a lot. It is human nature to see red when we don't get what we want. Throw a fit, right? All right. I know I do. I did read something about shady building permits. So apparently corruption in land development isn't anything new. So, all right. I did read after the Israelites rebuild the temple of the Lord, they throw this huge party, just sacrificing metric tons of goats and rams and cows and sheep and all that. And the praising of the Lord is so rad and so massive that it literally changes the attitude of the king of Assyria. That's cool. If we want to change someone's heart, it's not our words, but it's praising the Lord is where we should start. That's what I read. Tell me I'm wrong. There's also a part in Ezra where him and his people are weeping because they knew that they were basically pieces of shit. To say that they knew that they were doing wrong by the Lord, and it finally hits them, and they're like, "Oh crap!" And then they weep. Like they weep. That's how you know. That's how you know when you're really, really sad. When something hits you and you're like, "Oh, I just pissed God off," and then you just you cry. Otherwise, without those tears, how does God know you're real? Right? All right. Important note. Dun. Important note. Separate yourselves from those who don't worship the Lord. Old Testament, New Testament says the same thing. You are who you hang out with, I guess, right? We've all heard that one before. So that's the Old Testament. The New Testament, we are still with Paul. Paul's job was to preach the gospel. Shoes of the gospel. Check it out. With shoes of the gospel, you will be taken where you need to be taken. You will evade what's trying to bring you down. These shoes, fitted with the gospel, understanding the gospel, puts you in places where you need to be and takes you out of places where you don't want to be. Shoes of the gospel. Read the gospel. Understand the gospel. And you will get to where you're trying to get to. As long as it's righteous in the eyes of the Lord. It's a couple things that popped out as I'm reading. Again, this is me reading what I'm reading, and it's popping out to me. You reading what you're going to read, things are going to pop out to you. This journey with God over a year is your journey. Don't let anybody tell you what your journey is. Find out for yourself. All right? So the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. So they're perishing. Everything's going wrong in their life. And they're looking at you like you're a fool. I've had that happen. So Jews owned God at this point in the Bible. Greeks owned wisdom. Christ owns the world. Ta-da! So Nowadays, we are God's temple. Okay? And if we follow Jesus, Jesus will bring to light what is hidden in the darkness. Not just for you, but for those around you and those that you love. It says in the Bible in Corinthians, don't bang your father's wife. It's weird how we have to actually mention that. It's like in the Old Testament, don't hump goats. It's weird how we have to mention these things as rules because obviously people are humping goats and people are humping their father's wives. So don't do either one of those two. There's a huge part in Corinthians on sexual sin. I got to tell you, America, everybody has sexual sins. So I am nobody to tell anybody what's right or wrong. Corinthians, Paul, he really dives into that real deep. So I do know this. If you want to be successful in love, you got to do it God's way. All other ways fail. I know from personal experience, I have failed more times than I want to count trying to find love my way. All right. So for Christians, important note, you are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. Boom. Right? That's one of those boom moments. All right. Old Testament, New Testament. Done. Week 32. That's what I read, dude. Proverbs of the week. I thought it was going to be one, and then today I read another one. I'm like, oh, this one's got to be the one. All right. Proverbs. Do what is right and just. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. I'm going to read that again. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. As we're all trying to make sacrifices to get God's favor, the very first thing we should do is try and do what is right. And the only way to know what is right is to read the Bible. Otherwise, we're wandering around in the dark, clueless. So, there you go. All right. What is love? I'm going to end every week on what is love. This is all I'm trying to get across to everybody. If we can act in love in everything we do, in every decision that we make, in every encounter that we engage in, if we can act in love, how can it go wrong? So what is love? Love is it's more about what not to do, guys. Human nature wants to fuck love up. Yes, I use that word. That's what human nature is. We want to mess it up. Delighting in evil, boasting, being proud, being envious, dishonoring others, being self-seeking, getting easily angered, and keeping account of wrongdoing is not love. To be kind, to be patient, to rejoice in the truth, to protect, to trust, to persevere. That is love. The best part about love is if you don't lose hope in it, you will not fail in it. Week 32. Done, dude.